Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Boss Method podcast, hosted by myself, Ritu Bra. So today's topic is one that's been requested by the ladies inside the program. And this one is all to do with cheat days, cheat meals, and refeeds. So the question was, are cheat meals or cheat days better? Like, which one is better to do? And it got me thinking, really, because I'm not really a fan of the term cheat meals or cheat days. I do, however, prefer and I like refeeds. And I'm going to explain exactly why as well. And the thing is, there are actually benefits to doing cheat days, cheat meals, and refeeds. They are, three very different terms. But with each of those, they need very specific coaching. And there's a lot to kind of navigate, especially with in terms of the mindset. So it's not necessarily just all about, being in a diet phase and that's it. And then just having this random cheat day or cheat meal or refeed habit. There needs to be a reason why it's implemented, and there needs to be some strategy with it as well, especially when we're thinking about goals and goals that are specifically related to, and that's what this is related to, goals that are specifically related to losing weight, dropping the body fat, and also getting toned or leaner. Okay, so firstly, what is a cheat day, right? So everyone's heard of this term cheat day, and I always think of, whenever I've thought of cheats, I always think of like The Rock, right? Big bodybuilders, and they've got insane amount of muscle, and they always talk about having their cheat days, if you like. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about what a cheat day is. So a cheat day could be an unknown and unaccountable day of eating that may come without limitations. So it's basically a whole day where you allow yourself to eat foods that you might usually avoid. It's a bit like giving yourself a break from your normal, like, healthy routine for a day and indulging in your favorite treats throughout the day. But it's important to note that on occasion, it might occur due to a rebound from a period of like heavy calorie restriction or even food exclusion. And I think as a result, this could, a cheat day could be anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000. And I'm sure you've heard it. I know I certainly couldn't stomach this, but 10,000 calorie cheat days. So it's a huge increase, or can be a huge increase of calories. So I think it's always important to approach these terms or these days or these ideas mindfully, and understand the purpose that you're doing it for, why you're doing it, and the impact that it's going to have on your lifestyle, on your gut as well, and also on your goals. So I think that's often not really discussed in terms of like how this feels, that like literally stomach, like to have that many calories all in one day, especially if you've been in like a heavy restriction. That can be a lot to deal with all at once. We want to be able to like digest food and gain the nutrients out of it as well. So that's really important. So in terms of cheat meal, what's this? Well, a cheat meal is like a special treat, for example, where again, you might take a break from your usual healthy eating and enjoy foods that might not be so good for you. It's like giving yourself permission to have something delicious, maybe a little bit more indulgent, like pizza or ice cream. But it's important to enjoy these treats in moderation and not make them like a regular habit. So you might see, again, from other coaches out there, they might make cheat days or cheat meals like a regular thing. And they might just sort of tell their client, yeah, go and have a cheat meal, or yeah, you've worked really hard this week, go and have cheat meal or a cheat day. And I think it's really important to think about how this might affect you as the individual, like your mindset as well around your lifestyle or the way that you eat as well. I mean, is it that we only really adhere to like a calorie goal or even like a period of healthy eating just to get to a specific goal? Or is it something that we should be looking at anyway in general, even if we are eating at maintenance and also if we are eating in a surplus? It's important to know what your diet is right now. So if you are in a calorie deficit and you are adhering to it, it's important to know how big that calorie deficit is and what would warrant the need for a cheat meal or a cheat day. Again, one of the things, I'm going to discuss it afterwards, and I haven't actually done a slide on this, but I'll talk a little bit about it just shortly. So just bear with me. The next thing we're going to talk about is refeeds. I am a fan of refeeds, and refeeds are definitely something, again, that I try to implement with clients that are quite good at sticking to a calorie target over the week. And we then have like a surplus, if you like, or it feels like a bigger surplus over a certain day. Now, with this, it needs to be strategically placed. So it's not like a cheat day or a cheat whatever meal or anything. It's a strategy for trying to manage like calorie intake over longer time frame. It's going to allow you flexibility in your nutrition and allow you to stick to your calorie targets by offering a balance between low and high calorie days. So I've done this and I've used this quite often, where if I've had a lower 6-day calorie target, because yes, I am working in towards a deficit for any specific reason, I might well have a higher calorie day, which allows me for some more flexibility. It's important to note that even with a refeed, the predominance of your calories, again, it's a planned increase in calorie intake. It's usually a focus towards carbohydrates within a structured diet plan, and especially sort of aimed at that fat loss. So when we implement a refeed, it is important to make sure that you are still getting your protein intake covered, that you're still hitting that. It's not a free-for-all with, okay, you've got an increase of calories and that's it. It's thinking about the calories, having your protein intake, making sure that fat is kept to not a minimum, but to a sensible level. We obviously want to make sure that fats are not ridiculously low, because we need fats for our hormonal health and help us regulate hormonal processes in the body. It's super, super important. But using the refeed strategically towards carbohydrates, and then actually having a look at this refeed and using it to maximize the benefits in your workout or training program as well. So, for example, if I am thinking about maximizing training, this is where I have and would use it, is let's say I really want to grow my glutes, right? And so I know that a lot of you ladies really do want to focus on the glutes. So what would be the idea here is to actually have that refeed on a day that you are doing a heavy planned loaded glute day. And so by having the higher calorie intake and having that extra carbs, you're going to improve your energy levels, replenish your glycogen stores, help prevent that sort of burning into the muscle tissue. You're going to be able to really fuel your session. So I think, again, it's just really thinking about this, again, in terms of having this dialed in on a weekly basis. The purpose of a refeed is to temporarily boost your energy levels, which again is beneficial for maximizing a training session, again, replenishing glycogen stores, preventing metabolic slowdown that might occur if you've been in a very prolonged calorie restriction. So I really want to highlight this because I work very closely with my clients. And it's important to know that when we have that conversation, ladies, and I'm saying to you, I think it's time for a calorie increase, is because I don't want you to be stuck in that diet mindset on that train for a long, long period. It's important. So it is a strategic weekly break, if you like, that's going to help you maintain that long-term progress. And this is where it kind of comes on to my next point. It's important to note that cheat days, cheat meals, and refeeds should be planned carefully. And what we don't want them to become is them turning into like binge eating episodes. Moderation is key to achieving the desired benefits while staying on track with your overall health and fitness goals. So another thing that might be really, really important, and this has been implemented with the ladies, and typically we kind of do it around like Christmas, if you like, and then also we'll implement it when we know that we are coming into a phase where ladies are very, very close to their goal weight, for example, and just before we start like the coming up into like another phase of dieting, is to actually have a diet break. Having a planned diet break, literally just taking a week away from tracking. Again, the mindset ideally should have been shifted around making sure that you are still filling up. You're thinking protein first, your vegetables. We're thinking about healthful foods, but we're not necessarily thinking about a calorie intake or any kind of restriction. And it just allows you to actually refeed the body, okay, refeed the mind as well, refeed your mindset around this. It's hard. It is hard dieting. Like, it's hard being in a calorie deficit for a long period. But what's important to know is to know that if you are working towards cheat days, cheat meals, refeeds, or even diet breaks, it's important to know that if you have been in your calorie deficit, that you've done it for a set number of weeks and you've honestly tracked and you know that you are in that calorie deficit because we are seeing changes. It's also important to note that there haven't been episodes where you've tracked one day and you have not tracked one day, or like, you feel like you've been doing it and then suddenly you have like a sporadic change. That's not when we can implement this stuff. And so I think it's really important. And I saw a post on this actually by, I'm just trying to think, by somebody else. And actually they said, and it has really got me thinking about this topic as well, that if you are saying to me that you cannot lose weight and you cannot say hand on heart that you have stuck to 1 week of tracking where you have adhered to your calorie deficit, you have nailed your training, you have nailed your steps, you have nailed any planned or specific cardio that you've been given, and you have nailed your calorie intake. So we're thinking about the protein, we're thinking about the fats and the carbs. And this is again why I say that there is a great deal of value in repetition and eating the same meals just for a number of days, because it takes the thinking out of that process and it allows you to really just kind of dial in on those numbers, work through that first week. You will see change, then mount on and go right next week. So if you can do 1 week, and then you can do 2 weeks, and you can do 3 weeks, and if you can nail 4 weeks of adhering to that calorie deficit and knowing that you have been sticking to it 100%, then we can definitely start looking at how to plan these refeeds, these strategic refeeds, these diet breaks that are planned. They are not episodes for going off plan sporadically because things haven't gone to plan. But I just thought that this approach isn't for everyone, and it might not be for you listening. And it really does take a certain mindset as well. Again, if you know that you are somebody that actually really struggles with sticking with that, again, just taking it slowly, taking it at pace, taking it at a level that you can work with is just really important. So we're going to come back to refeeds, and I'm going to say to you like how to implement a refeed. We've talked a little bit about it, but when we are looking at refeeds and we're looking at planned refeeds, we can ideally look at the easiest thing to start with is actually setting a weekly calorie goal. You can actually do a monthly calorie goal, but I would definitely say that that is a lot harder. You might think, oh yeah, this is great. I've got, a bit like giving a child pocket money, right? But if you work week by week and we literally go, that's your calorie goal over the week, we can strategically plan this. Now, again, we've talked about this when we've done things like calorie banking and some of the other things, the other topics that we talked about over Christmas as well. You want to make sure that you're actually tracking your daily intake. And again, we are going to allow for those variations in daily consumption. So that's what this is going to do. So again, if you know that like Wednesday is the day that you want those extra calories, we can plan them. So yeah, there's so many ways to do this. There is so many ways, and it's about finding the method that works for you. And I love this because I spent ages creating this little image here. But again, this is the I can't ever seem to lose weight diagram. Okay, so we've got our weekly Monday to Sunday. You've got someone that, let's say on a Monday, everything starts great. And, let's say that actually really on the Monday, you've actually started at 1800 calories. You've carried that all the way through. And then suddenly you've just shot all the way up because Saturday and Sunday suddenly become your cheat days. And we did talk about cheat days, that sometimes they can be between 3,000 to 6,000 days. Now, if 6,000 calories, 6,000 calories, 3,000 to 600,000 calories. If they can fluctuate between those figures, then obviously you're taking yourself out of a deficit. You're not even going to be at maintenance. You're going to be in a surplus. So instead of actually losing weight, you're actually setting yourself to put on weight. And so even in this diagram, let's say, for example, your maintenance calories are 2,000 and you spend most of the week sitting under 1,800 calories and you're loving life, and maybe things have got a bit stressful, or maybe there is no emotion attached to this, but you're in the mindset of, hey, it's the weekend, calories don't count, my diet doesn't matter anymore, I'm gonna go and have a cheat day or a cheat whatever. And then you end up racking up, the intake of 3,000 calories plus. And this is, again, me being actually, quite moderate here, but this is probably quite true for most of us, 3,000-ish calories. And you think, oh, this wasn't really that much. Your total average, you're then actually dropping down to compensate on a Monday. Your weekly average takes you up to the 2,200 calorie mark. So what I'm really trying to explain here, and especially for those of you that are listening to the podcast and you are not watching this visual, what you're actually doing is like overcompensating by, again, adding in the cardio, eating the salads, over restricting, and you then start to take it back into this cycle of yo-yoing up and down. So again, it really is an art, and it is a matter of mindset and really focusing on that. It is hard, okay, in that sense. But once you nail it, you can make it really work, okay? And so what I mean by this, and again, this is the whole thing of like not, so yeah, actually, we're going to go back a slide, because on the visual, you've got a little icon there where you've got the running icon, and that, let's say that's cardio. You're doing cardio 5 days a week, and then you've got your training 4 weight training sessions, and then you just do bugger all on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Or you've got that mindset, if I need to like run constantly, I need to exercise, cardio. Then we kind of change the mindset shift. This is still looking at maintenance calories of like 2000. And the mindset shift is here. I stay consistent and I allow for flexibility whilst I reach my goals, or whilst reaching my goals. So we've got a moderate calorie deficit here. So if we're saying that maintenance is 2000, we're just adding in a nice moderate 300 calorie deficit throughout the week. You know, you're nailing your training. You've actually allowed for a couple of like bit of flexibility in terms of flexible dieting based on your calorie intake. You're allowing for a bit of chocolate, maybe like, you know, a slice of pizza on a Wednesday, or, you know, like a glass of wine or whatever. And you're also not hammering it in terms of your training, because you cannot out-train a shit diet. I'll just put it frank, you cannot. But we can start to manipulate the figures in some respect, as long as we are mostly healthful. And we're thinking, you know, healthy foods for at least 80% of the calories. And then we've got just like a little smidge of, there's some things that, you know, again, they taste good. You know, your wine or your burger or your cupcake, your chocolate, whatever. And again, this is not to say this is what every week should look like, but it's just a kind of an infograph really, or an infogram to graphic, just to kind of display what some of the things you might do. So for example, cardio is only like twice a week. Weight training is just 3 times a week. And you've actually got some time where you do some rest and recharge. So actually on a Sunday, you chill out. But let's say on a Thursday, you go and do some meditation, or you do yoga, or you do Pilates, you do something else, which is trying to sort of shift the balance. And everything isn't all about loading stress, increasing the cortisol, you know, over training to the point that you feel like you need to, you know, it's your wiring, you're increasing that hunger, you're increasing the energy demands. We want to find balance. And I will always repeat that I think balance really is the magic word here. That's the thing that's going to, you know, help us stay just sustainable, basically. Yeah. And ultimately that is what's going to get you the calorie deficit. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've got any questions, ladies, if you are on the program, the Girl Boss Method, just shoot me a DM or send me a message in the group, or DM me if private. But for those of you that have been listening, and if you've just stumbled across either my podcast or the YouTube account, you can follow me on Instagram at Ritu Bra. I'll also include that tag in the comments or in the description below. And if you've got any questions, we can talk about this a little bit more. Again, if there are any topics that you want me to discuss based on your goals, based on your struggles, and again, that's something we can get into. But yeah, anyway, have a lovely the rest of your day, whatever you are up to. Maintain balance. And this is just food for thought. Again, any more questions, just give me a shout and we'll see you here next time. Thank you.